Hello, good evening, and welcome to Building Bridges this evening, the 15th of August, 2022. It is a pleasure to be with you once again um, here this evening. I am happy that you have taken time to join us. I would like to see my comments rolling in. Tell me where you're viewing us from. Tell me what's happening. How did you spend your weekend? I am happy to be here with you. I had a fantastic weekend. I spent my weekend with my comrades. We had a lovely time, 3 days apart. It was much needed. And so I am happy that William Kozia, I have not seen you in a long time, William. How are you? William is joining us from Toronto, Canada. And Joycelyn Rodriguez, good evening to you, Joycelyn. Tell me where you're viewing us from. Adams, good evening to you. Saint Romain Adams, good evening. Miss Wilson, good evening to you. Tell me where you're viewing us from. Joycelyn is viewing us from Barbados. Yes, the flying fish is in the house. Good evening to all of you. And Mark Garrett is viewing us from Brooklyn. We're being viewed around the world, folks. Share the live. Tonight is going to be an interesting session. You guys would have seen we have a young man with us this evening. MP Nima Flubes, good evening to you. I want to offer my condolences to MP Nima Flubes and her family. Folks, she would have lost her mom. Very sad situation. She would have lost her mom yesterday afternoon. And MP Nima Flubes, I know what it is to lose someone very close to you, someone that you've loved all your life. And I know that that is very painful. And we send all of our love to you. Just stay strong. And I'm happy that you have taken time to join us this evening. Thank you. Mocha is in the house. Good evening. I see Rosamond is from Texas and she's in the house. Anna Gordon is in the house. Anna is a faithful viewer of Building Bridges. Barbara is from New Jersey and she's in the house. Good evening to you folks. This evening we are going to talk about youth empowerment, solidarity for our Guyanese youth. We would have a few days ago celebrated International Youth Day, and sometimes you just wonder what's really happening in Guyana. Youth movements and youth development is always a big thing. But what we saw happen the last few days is really a reflection of the state of affairs of our youth development in this country. And folks, we're going to talk about that a little later. First, let me take a short break because I promised a few persons that I will share the live myself with them. Sometimes when you send out the flyer, persons say, well, send me the link. So I have to take some time to do that. So folks, I want you to take a minute, share the live. This afternoon's conversation is going to be interesting. It's one that concerns all of us. And on Building Bridges, we ensure we bring credible information to you. And we always ensure that after 1 hour of conversation, you learn something. So take a moment, share the live stream as I will do, and I will be right back with our guest. Welcome back. Welcome, folks. I am happy to be here with you this evening. Let me take a few minutes to say shout out to a few persons here this evening with us. It's an awesome weekend that we've had, and I'm seeing persons joining us from around the world. Barbara Joyce, good evening. How are you doing? And Sherman is from Barbados, so we have quite a few persons from Barbados. Patricia Trim is from Brooklyn. I'm seeing some of my regular. Brian Lewis, my brother, how are you? Are you still in the Mazaruni? Or are you out on the coastline? If you are on the coastline, please make contact with me and Miss Vashti Magnot. West Burby's lady, she is joining us from Canada. I know some of you, I just need to see the name pop up and I know who you are. You are regular viewers to Building Bridges. Folks, share the live stream. Oliver from Barbados, share the live stream in all of your groups, your Guyanese groups where you are. Share the live stream so you can hear from a young man who has been practicing in the field of youth development in this country for a number of years. We want to bring these issues to you. MP Ronald Cox is in the house. Welcome, Ronald. How are you? Ronald is looking forward to our discussion. Ronald, I miss you. Claudette and Alana. Ronald, please get on to Alana from Matthews Ridge. She asked for the live stream to be sent to her. Please share, ensure Alana gets in here. We want to hear what's happening in Matthews Ridge in Region 1. We want to know what's happening to our young Indigenous people. Tell us what's going on. Folks, it's lovely to have you here. Let me take a moment to introduce to you our guest for today. And our guest for today is a young man who was born in Georgetown, Region 4, has roots in Region 5, and more roots in Region 10. Folks, let's welcome Kibwe Copeland, a youth development person in the whole sphere of Guyana's youth development. Welcome, Kibwe.
Thank you very much for having me.
This is your first appearance on Building Bridges.
It is. I'm glad that you built that bridge.
Thank you. Kiwi, as a standard operating procedure, when you come on to Building Bridges for the first time, you have to tell our viewers who you are.
Well, it's my pleasure. Well, for persons who are unaware of who I am, and of course for all the viewers of Building Bridges, my name is Kibwe Copeland. I am a young man of Guyanese soil, born in Georgetown, lives in South. I have been doing youth work from 2009, more actively in politics in 2010. After the last regional elections, that's it, 2011 elections, I would have become a regional councillor for the RDC number 4 and was a chairman for youth sports and culture for Region 4 at that time. So I've been doing work politically even up to 2015, which ended my tenure as a regional councillor. I also continued my political work, but ventured off into civil society, started an organization called Clear Path, which focused on youth development and empowerment. One of my main areas of focus is self-realization. It's my belief that the key to one's success is the realization of oneself. So, we get into that, of course, in the conversation. Besides that, I've done work, of course, that focus on reparations and so forth as well. And besides that, I'm a young man. I love sports. I'm a poet. I think that's my born gift. I love music. I love the arts, whether it be poetry, music, dance, drama. I'm a culture person. I don't know. I think that's a good synopsis to start it off. You'll get to know me as we continue in this conversation.
Absolutely. Folks, I don't think that we need more introduction. You from that introduction, you understand that we have somebody with us who is more than qualified to tell us what's happening in Guyana in terms of youth development. Kibi, a few days ago, I think it was Friday, we celebrated International Youth Day.
Correct.
And the theme I think we celebrated was intergenerational solidarity, creating a world for all ages. The only thing I saw, and I don't want to be biased, the only thing I saw was the government of Guyana meeting the National Youth Advisory Council, having a session at the Art Chung Center, and the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport making a lot of political statements on an issue that is so important, addressing our young people. He spoke, instead of telling the young people um, what he has done for the past 2 years in terms of youth development, in terms of cultural development, and what has he done to develop them socially and emotionally, what policies are in place. He spoke about the death of democracy and what happened in the elections and so on. Our young people are interested in politics, but more importantly, they're interested in policies. What are you putting in place for them? How are they going to live? How are they going to grow, importantly, in an oil producing nation? So give us your thoughts on that.
Sadly, um, Minister Robinson is the same as most of the ministers under the PPP. They don't know how to separate a political elections campaign speech from a speech that speaks to youth development in general. And we're talking about International Youth Day. We're talking about a day whereby we're looking at young people. We put a microscope on young people, looking at their development, how we can empower them, how we can educate them, how we can embrace them to be not just the future for tomorrow, but the future for today. Because by the time tomorrow, most of us young people will be as old as our seniors. So they fail as in to give policies or give or pave a way forward towards youth development. They're so stuck into the thing called petty politics that every time they get a mic, it's to speak about democracy or something. And democracy has its place and its time. They speak about some other political party or what hasn't been done or what should be done. But what are they doing? That's the question. We are quick to be political. And even as a political activist, I understand where politics is important to speak about politics, but you must know when and where.
Yes.
For that particular day, I was not looking forward for a speech that spoke to the death of democracy. I was looking towards a speech that speaks to how we or the death of youth empowerment,
Yeah.
right? Which I would say would decline right after the 2020 elections.
Yes.
How do we mold a society that doesn't take young people as just numbers, but take them serious? How do we mold a society that only speaks that young people are the future, but treat them like children? How
Yeah.
do we mold a society whereby young people are empowered and not being fearful of saying out or speaking out because then you'll be aligned to a political party or be fired or be victimized or.
That's true.
So the speech was poor, and it speaks to the petty politics which is poisoning this country. You know, Guyana politics has become the number one trend of everything.
Yeah.
You can't live a normal life if politics doesn't stick its nose inside.
Yeah.
Politics, of course, has a major place in every society, but when you're limited to politics and politics alone, that's a problem.
Yes, it is.
You can't speak up because politics is going to come and hit you. You
Yeah.
can't speak for your rights because then a politician is looking to say, well, he's speaking against a policy that we put out. Where does he work?
Yeah.
That is the problem that young people have in this country. Young people are actually scared because what do they have? What That is why we people on this side, right, with the PNCR, at least my organization, GYSM, which I am the chairman for, advocate for the voiceless. We will make sure that young people, that this country comes back to a particular stage whereby young people can speak up and not be marginalized, not be victimized, and don't have to worry about losing their job the next day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking about some young people, I want to give a shout out to Estivia Lake, who is in Region 7, and MP Annette Ferguson is on the live, and you can certainly put your comments and let's see what's happening. To agree with you, Gwyneth Anderson has said the ministry has no vision, so how can they speak on development? And that's a hardcore question. Can if Charles Ramsden is not able to give a proper speech, to speak to what his vision is, what his installed administration vision is for the youth of this country, then what else can we expect? And so people are looking on. People are taking, notes of what's happening in this country. Kibber, you and I know that when the APNU AFC took government in 2015, in our first year in government, we ensured that a national youth policy was tabled in the National Assembly.
That is correct.
First year of our in our office in developing this country, we ensured that the national youth policy was tabled in this country. And one of the things that the national youth policy speaks to, and it's there, and viewers, you can go to the Parliament's website and type in national youth policy, and you will have a copy of it. It is what the APNU AFC said that we will do in office, and we started to implement those policies. Kibri, I want us to talk a little bit, because I know you were very modest in your introduction. But as we go along, I will tell our viewers, Kibri was involved in the youth empowerment aspect of our country during 2015 to 2020. So he has intimate knowledge of the kind of development, how strategic the coalition was in empowering our young people. One of the things that I know for sure that was very impactful was the goal that spoke to developing quality education and market-oriented skills for our young persons. I want us to now take a look at what has happened from August 2nd, 2020 to now. Let me share with you, and you would probably give me some background information. Charles Ramson's leadership has seen a number of programs being chopped off from the Kurukuru Training Center. The training center in New Amsterdam, the Vrijmans Irving Center, same position. The Sophia Training Center, same position. Let me say to you that I know for sure that the center in Sophia was very essential for those young people in that community. It didn't only cater for the young people in Sophia, but the surrounding environment. He has taken out a number of those programs there. 2020, he had a budget. Absolutely nothing happened at that center. In 2020, he actually closed the center at Kurukuru. In 2021, I think they were just operating at a minimum in Vrijmans Irving and in Sophia. But let me say to our viewers, it broke my heart when I saw what happened at the Kurukuru Training Center. You know why? Our indigenous people from all the hinterland regions, they were given an opportunity to come to Kurukuru. It's a living facility where they can learn a trade and they can go back to their community. You know what Charles did? Charles closed that center down. We have been making a lot of effort to ensure that something happened for that particular center, and the one at Sophia and the one in Vrijmans Irving to come back on board, because we know the huge budget that culture, youth, and sport has in the last 2 years. What is happening?
Well, of course, lack of vision
Lack
and
of vision.
petty politics yet again, because there's a youth policy. There's a youth policy that is in. You can go and check it up for yourself, persons who are wondering, if we're just talking out of the wind. There is a youth policy that the present minister, has abandoned and would not take interest in, because it was formulated under the PNU AFC government.
Yes.
Petty politics. And that youth policy, because I've been a part of the activities that led to that youth policy, the presidential advisor of youth empowerment at that time, Mr. Aubrey Compton Norton, who is leader of the opposition, the leader of the PNCR, pulled together leadership training programs, training over 500 and something young people at the Madawini Training Center. He brought young people from across this country, all 10 administrative regions. There were 2 consecutive weekends whereby young people come and they will speak, they will be lectured about leadership. There is about more of a kind of participatory kind of activity. They would then have their own way. They also debate and this kind of stuff. And out of those leadership training programs, that youth policy was crafted. It was not a situation whereby we had 10 persons who thought they know everything about young people, the interests of young people, and they sit together and say, let's put pen to paper or fingers towards keys on a keyboard. Young people from across this country, more than 500 young people, came together. different leadership training programs, and the analysis from each program helped to shape that national youth policy. It was passed in Parliament. It is there for the government to benefit from young people to benefit from. But because of petty politics, because of, I know better. And we
Yeah.
understand that they don't know better because you spoke about the Kuroko College and then in that program that disenfranchised the indigenous people. And when we went into the Pamrum River and we spoke to some persons, the indigenous people, they say, you know what, we're tired of this cash grant kind of situation whereby you just give us enough to survive tomorrow. We
Yes.
want, and one of our policies, one of the things that the PNC stands for is that if anybody, for example, in hinterland, indigenous people should be given that opportunity to have the skills as contractors. So any work that needs to be done in hinterland, they can do it themselves. Many of the times, people have to be sent from far-flung areas to come into their community who do not understand the community and the needs of the people, do some slam dash work. It goes back to the bad state, and then they're left, to wait for the government to come again and give them some money. We have to stop that approach. So going back to that youth policy, I think that is something that people have to zoom into. We are not just here to give you political rhetoric. We're here to speak about fact. There is a youth policy. And if you go through that policy yourself, if you have reason, if you can critically analyze a document and you analyze the document from the start into the end, I think it's about 6 or 5 pages, it's very comprehensive. You will understand that it speaks to all young people, whether you different religion, whether it be from a different ethnic group, whether it be from persons in the middle class, the working class, or persons we call the disenfranchised. It speaks to that. So we are seeing yet again a government that puts people in place who are egoistic, who think they know it all, and run around the place does shine out programs without no strategic plan to how it's going to actually develop young people today or tomorrow. And that's what we see. And that's very sad. That's very sad.
And MP Ronald Cox is on the live, and he has said to us, we all know that Ramson lacks the vision for his ministerial portfolio. He should be the PPP political mouthpiece instead. He has continuously failed to adequately address youth and sports development. And Kibwe, that's exactly what you have said.
Correct.
Ramson has failed. In 2 years, he has failed the young people of this country. We're not going to talk about culture as yet. Another day, we'll have somebody in that area of expertise to come and talk. But he has failed that sector too. He feels that you put on clothes that has the colors of the national flag and you go and you dance on stage and you have a particular entertainment group controlling Mashramani and the independence celebration and so on, and you showcase a nice 1 hour, 2 hour show, and that is cultural development in our country.
And just want to add a little bit to that same thing with culture. I'm looking at presently, we just had Emancipation Day, 1st of August.
Yes.
And when you look at the fight that people of African descent have to fight when it comes to having events like Juves and so on, day before on the Tour de Force and the eve of Emancipation Day, right? It shows the disrespect because these people also had to seek permission from the Ministry of Culture and Sport.
Yes.
They have the authority to approve these events. So it speaks to the lack of respect for culture itself.
Yes.
Right. And, as you said, the culture conversation is going to come another
We
time.
will have to have a really in-depth conversation on culture. But Patricia Trim is from New Amsterdam. She is a councillor on the municipality in New Amsterdam. And Patricia is saying to us this evening that New Amsterdam needs a track and field for youth development and a playground for the toddlers. The burial ground needs a transformation. New Amsterdam City Hall needs to do some work. I understand that, but let me say to Patricia that the track and field that you are asking about, the APNU AFC started that. It is one of the projects under the Sports Commission, I believe. There is one in Linden, a track and field, and there's one in New Amsterdam. And I can say to you that as soon as the government came into office in August 2020, They've halted that program completely. I know there are two capital projects that we've started under the APNU AFC, and Charles Ramsden has put a halt on those programs. Ask him, after 2 years, those projects, they were almost 40 to 50% completed. Those track and in I think it is in Wismar in Region 10, and the other one is in New Amsterdam, just obliquely to the Bishop's High School. That will benefit the people in Region 6. It will benefit the young people in Linden. But do you think that Charles Ramsden is serious about youth development in this country? We have to talk about these things. They are deliberately, Kibri, I want to say to you that I feel as a member of parliament that Charles Ramsden's leadership is deliberate in what he's doing. He is
Totally agree.
denying the people of Region 10, he's denying the people of Region 4 equal opportunity at youth development.
And it speaks to the PPP's way of politics and governing,
Yeah.
whereby where the support base is more inclined to the APNUFC or the PNCR,
Yeah.
they will try to spite them. That is so sad that you disenfranchise the people of this country who you're supposed to govern, despite of where they support, despite of their beliefs. You're supposed to govern all the people of this country, but you will disenfranchise them just because they support a party that is not of yours. So I'm also convinced that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, the PPP in general, are not interested in actually developing and empowering young people. They develop and empower young people who they can control. And that's a small fraction of young people. They also don't want to say a literate society. I believe they want a more illiterate society.
Yes.
When you end those kind of programs, we had literacy training programs, we had small business training programs. They make it so difficult for young people to get education. Then, for young people who go out their way to pay their own money, University of Guyana, to put their own time into the University of Guyana or other technical institutes, when they're finished, there's not much for them to do. And when there is a job opening, either you know somebody know you, or if you get a job, you gotta shut them out because then again, you're not just an employee, but you are a servant to someone else. And that is the kind of politics, that is the kind of government we have to end in this country. As a young person, I'm appeasing to all my young people. We as young people have to stand against the petty politics. Petty politics that has infected this country long before this time, long before our time, even the colonial powers. We have to move away from whereby politics is seen as, if you're part of this party, you can't do nothing else. You're only a politician.
Yeah.
If you support this party, means you can't get a job. That should end. That has to end. What happened to freedom of speech? What happened to freedom of association? We as young people have to stand up against it. And one last thing I want to say, especially when it comes to young people, we have to stop running away from politics as well.
Yeah.
We always say that politics is for the old people, the old crooks. Now, if it is only for the old people and the old crooks, and you allow only these old people who you as deeming to be old people and old crooks to be a part of politics, what you continue to get the same results. Unless we young people come into the political system, and politics has more to do than a political party. Politics is played in every industry, every organization that there is. We have to make sure that we fill up every institution that dictates how this country is run, whether it be in a political party, whether it be in parliament, whether it be in GCOM, whether it be in the constitutional bodies, whether it be in non-governmental or civil society, and hear our voice as young people for change. And of course, for some sense of vision, because I'm looking for vision or some kind of strategic plan for the longest while from the PPP. I'm not seeing it.
Well, I can tell you, Kibri, that we have already decided in the National Assembly that they have absolutely no plan.
That is true.
Nationally, they have no plan.
No, they do, They have a plan that whenever people make noise, they're going to give them money.
That
is
might
sad.
be, that might be indeed, but that's destructive.
Very destructive.
And I'm happy that you've raised that, if that's a plan. I know that our brothers and sisters in the Pomeroon are disadvantaged. And there's a particular situation. If we are to tell you how the PPP operates, and we really want to explain this thing in detail to tell you, because they say something and they do something else. I strongly believe for our young people, you should teach them. You should enhance their skills, give them the opportunity to do something for themselves, take them into small businesses. I honestly think that they should be self sufficient.
Right.
There's a particular situation in the Pomeroon that we all know about, but I'll allow Kiwi to take us there. And Kiwi, I want us to spend some time and talk about Ganap still. But first, tell us about giving a man a fish for a day and teaching a man to fish.
Correct.
And use the Pomeroon situation.
Well, in the Cameroon, we're talking about the person in the Cameroon complaining that, you know what, our farmlands are being flooded, and we need persons, we need a better dredge. I think the government sent in some dredges and so on to dredge the river,
Through
but of course,
agriculture, yes.
it was not adequate. It just did something, and of course, they're still in the same state. And these people now, that's their livelihood, farming, and more than just farming. We, the APNUAFC, would have set up ITC hubs
Yes.
in the Palm Room as well, which they claimed that some of the equipment were not functioning and they took it away. The internet started not to function. They also said they will fix it. Until now, it's not fixed. And we understand why they don't want to fix it. They don't want information to be sent. They don't want
Yes.
this
Yeah.
live building bridges to be broadcasted in the Palm Room. But don't worry, we will continue to go into the Palm Room by foot, boots on the ground, to make sure people get the information. But back to the whole situation. They're complaining that, you know what, we want to be self-sufficient. We want to grow our own food. We want to sell our own food. We want to also take care of our own community.
Yeah.
But the PPP has continuously starved these people, hold them tight. So they're only now subject to cash grants or money coming from time to time. When that money is fishing, trust me, 100,000 is no money in this country.
Yeah. And
250,000 is no money in this country.
Yeah.
One flooding alone, sometimes one market day. And then we spoke about some people's rent alone is 60,000. That's some people's salary. We're not speaking about clothes, if they got 2 or 3 children, if they have I can't go to a show, or I can't enjoy myself. I can't go and take a little drink at a bar. We're not thinking
Things
so
tight.
much. Things really tight.
Things
And then
tight.
again, our parties continuously pushed that we should look and analyze how much does it take for somebody to actually survive. How much, when you take into consideration their bills,
Yeah.
take into consideration their transportation and their meals, how much is enough for somebody to survive? We have not, this government has not taken any position whereby, the cost of living is high. We have some extra money because we have oil.
Yeah.
That's a bigger improvement. How can we better the lives of people? You know what we'll do? We give them 100,000. We give them $100,000. Some people never see $100,000 one time in a hand, apparently. So we give them 100,000, they can forget about everything else. That is not acceptable.
Yeah.
They spoke about 50,000 jobs in their manifesto before they came into office by however means. Then they give us temporary jobs. And I'm against persons going to get a job. Money is money. If you need the money, go get the jobs. But I'm saying people were looking forward for not temporary jobs, looking forward for permanent jobs. Jobs that catered for their bills, jobs that catered to their advancement, jobs that cater, and at the same time, people are crying out, you know what? Why could you give me a raise of pay? We have money to give other person jobs who are not specialized in certain areas.
Yes.
Not getting those people, but people who are specialized are getting paid not so much more than a person who are not even specialized. Why not give them more money? Times are hard. The cost of living is at a sky high. Gas is growing, right? So it's a time in this country where people are looking towards our leaders to take their personal situations very important. I always like to echo the words of, well, I wouldn't say echo the words, but from my understanding from Forbes Barnum, he was a man who looked at the present state of his people.
Yes.
We like to think about, yes, and by time 2030, this is how Ghana is going to be. But today I suffer it. Today I'm hungry. Today my children don't have school clothes. Today I have to go and work extra hard because I got to pay my bill by time next week. How do we address the present situation of the people? At the same time, make a strategic plan that the generation to come will still enjoy a better life than the persons today. So teach a man how to fish, then give him a fish. Make the relative institutions available, scholarships available, and don't just give it to your friends and cronies or people who support you at election day, but give it to all Guyanese, right? We understand if you want to give it to some of your friends, but make sure all people of Guyana benefit from these resources, right? So that's the problems that we have. And we are speaking, you might call us politicians. You might say Natasha is a parliamentarian, Kiwi is a PNC youth activist. But if you listen to me and stop, take your mind out of the political gutter, listen to what we're saying with a pinch of salt, critically analyze it. You know what we're saying is not foolishness. It
Yeah,
makes sense. Then you
makes good
analyze
sense.
the 2 years that the PPP has been in power. What have they done that we can say is sustainable?
God.
I could tell you how much money they give out, not really. But what have they done? You just point it out. And for persons who like to come on in these lives and say a lot of nonsense, you type it down. Tell me exactly what have they done. I will read it out.
Yes. And let me say to you, let me zoom that in, and I
Mhm.
still want to stay on this Pomeroon thing. When the Pomeroon was flooded, the APNU AFC went into the Pomeroon, the members of parliament and the councillors in Region 2.
Correct.
This thing eats my heart out. You know, there's some, you can't run from this. In Guyana, we consider some of the villages red and some green. It is what it is. I don't know how we can change it. We need to change it,
Uh-huh.
absolutely. So we went up to in the Pomeroon, and we traversed the Pomeroon River. We recognize what the problem is. We took relief. In opposition, we took relief to those people in the
Correct.
Pomeroon. We stopped at the villages, cluster of villages we invited. They came, they collected their relief, their flood relief. They went, they spoke with us. We came out back, we made contact with the Minister of Agriculture. They sent in some equipment. We knew because we were on the ground. We knew what was happening. We saw the level of water. We know the damages done and so on. You know, these people were not asking for a lot.
That is true.
They were asking for you to take care of the infrastructural work in the Pomeroon so that they would not suffer when there is heavy rainfall again. And listen to me. The Minister of Agriculture sent in equipment. And Kibi, what kind of equipment he sent in? That couldn't handle the work
Mhm.
of the flood.
Insufficient.
Insufficient. And then you know what they did? They pull out back the equipment from the Pomeroon.
But somebody got paid.
Somebody got paid. A contract was given. And you know why they do that? Because those were the AP and UAFC supporters. And you know what? All the farmlands underwater. You know what? They couldn't for a long time sustain themselves because they are fisher folks and they are farmers. That is the PPP that we have right now. That is the PPP we're dealing with. Instead of assisting the people, do the work of government, not a political party. Do the work of government.
Correct, correct.
Assist the people, the citizens of this country. Fix the infrastructure so that their lives are better. You know what? As an opposition, we will continue to do what we have to do, which is represent the people of this country. Last week, Gabriel and I were part of a delegation that went to Region 3 for community outreach.
Mhm.
We were in a community called Denham Still. And I cannot begin to tell you how lawless the PPP activists in that community behave. But share your views on that situation.
Well, we are politicians. We have a constituency, and we have a people to advocate for. We have this boots on the ground.
Yes.
So our intention, of course, is to make sure that we go and meet the people where they are. Facebook, this live has its place, but us meeting the persons face to face, seeing exactly the drainage, seeing the football field, seeing the state of people, and having that one-on-one conversation, it's very important. So we go and do that. We went into that after last week, and we were doing a walkabout, and we also noticed that we were being monitored by people.
Yeah.
They like to follow us, as you would know. Our leader would normally say that wherever he goes, they would follow. That is true. you know and while going to the football field, we noticed there was a particular altercation whereby there was two cars, and there was a guy who apparently was deemed to be a part of our
Yes.
group, which was not true. And a man came out and said, you know what? We government in power. And started one big fight, started to punch on this guy.
Yes. Yes.
Now, our leader himself was like, what is happening here? We did not want to get involved, but because of the seriousness, and we saw, trying to intervene, that ended there.
Yes.
But we then, we went off to have a meeting, a public meeting, and we saw the same fellow come back with a rage. Like, and, you know, my colleague right here felt your life was threatened because you saw somebody, you saw
Yes.
the arrogance, it was up and down, the operative. That's the kind of state we have. It's a
Kibri,
lawless.
he had a weapon in his
Yeah, he
hand.
had a weapon in his
We were
hand.
seated
In the play field,
in the play field
understands.
on the stands. We were talking to people. We were having
Correct.
serious conversation because one of the things that the residents of Denham still raised with us, and viewers, I need you to pay attention to what is happening here. The Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport went into Denham still. The play field there, the community center ground, is managed by the NDC. That's law.
And
Nothing.
there's also a committee that is established to look at its affairs and its advancement, right?
Exactly. There is a committee, an established committee for all the years. They are good on paper. They're
Elected members.
elected members. They have their stuff together. They manage the community center ground for Denham still. Lo and behold, that this guy, the minister, went in and he is trying his best to put the $10 million that is allocated in the national budget into the NAMSTIL ground. That is all well and good. I say kudos, Charles Ramson. Put the $10 million. I believe the grounds need resurfacing. It needs weeding, and so it needs infilling. Fine. We went there, we saw that is needed. The pavilion also, I believe, needs some work. We saw decaying steps and so on. Fine, put the money there. But you know what is happening? He is trying to go around the back door, appoint an interim committee to manage the affairs of the community center. When the community itself has a legal management committee. The community center is managed by the NDC of that community. How could that be right?
It's not right in any sense. And that is something that we've seen this government try to do. They try to control everything.
Yeah.
They micromanage everything at every level. And we saw it even in the 23 years before we would have brought back local democracy in this country,
Yes.
right? They set up a set of IMCs with persons who they would pinpoint to control the communities, whereby under AP and UFC, under the leadership of David Arthur Granger, we brought back local democracy. We brought back elections at the local level. So this attempt to control everything from a central standpoint is wrong because you
Yes.
have 83,000 square miles. You have a large vast of land. There's no way. They're already incompetent to even run their offices, much as to run a whole country. There's no way that them alone in a central body can control and micromanage everything. It's going to fail. And we've seen that happening. It's continuously happening. And that is why the AP and UAFC will move them at the next elections. But that's another conversation to go at. But we understand that they're not going to get better,
Yes.
right? They've had their chance to prove themselves and they're not going to get better. And that community, the persons on the community have cried out that, the ministers trying to go over them. They're not even trying to deal with the NDC. They're trying to do things their own way. They feel a
Yes.
big, bad, and brave.
Yeah.
We have to understand that people in government positions are servants to the people and not the other way around. People of the Amstel are going to continue to rally and make sure that things are done the right way. There's no way that the government will come and try to force things down on them. People are active. There's an active community, elected members. There are young people who go and enjoy that play field. There's the NDC with active councillors. There's no way that some central body can come and just come and say, we parachute some people who they might have full control over, and we put this money to some contractor who might not benefit the community financially, might not give jobs to the right people in the community. That's another problem. So that's one of the reasons.
We saw a particular situation with a road being done in that community. Yes.
Right? So that's one of the reasons why our leader continues not to shake the hand of the in finale, because this level of one Guyana, whereby you're only taking care of part of Guyana, but for the international community you want to say one Guyana, it's not right, and we're not accepting. And that is why we will continue to advocate. We will continue to make sure that we let people out there know what is happening, because that's one of the things they try best to do, to shun everything down. If they could say it's quiet as possible, they will just take the glory. But we'll make sure we go on the ground and see all of the things that they're trying to slip on the table and make sure we bring it to the attention of the people of this country.
And as we are having our conversation here, I'm monitoring some of the comments, and we don't want to tell you all negative things, but let me tell you, our purpose as members of parliament, as an opposition, is to bring the reality to the people, and we are on the ground. Tomorrow, we are going to be at Calcutta, Maikoni, and we are going to walk as far as we can. There are a few villages that will come together. We will go to our constituency. We will work with the people. We have to hear what they say. And that's something that is very, very important. When we go out to the communities, we see for ourselves what's happening. We listen to the people. The people, they have been calling for us. So if we go, we hear, we have to come back, we have to make representation for them. And in the process of making representation, we have to give our constituency a feedback.
That is
And
true.
that's why we're here today. We don't mean to be negative, but if there is nothing positive for us to talk about, tell me what has been happening in your community for our young people that is positive. It was overwhelming to see that the young people of Denham still came out. We had a number of young people playing football on the field when we got there for our meeting, and they came out and they spoke to the leader of the opposition. They told him what's happening in Den Amstel. We saw a contract to build a road given to an Indian company, an Indian national. All Indian nationals there, no Guyanese on that project on the ground. They can hardly speak to us. And the quality of work, the residents took us. We were on the east end of Dan Amstel, and they took us to that area to show us the quality of work, the material being used. No Guyanese is employed on that project. How could that be right? It is not positive, but I have to tell you. But how is that right? How are we creating employment for our people? How is that equal opportunity for Guyanese? You know, that Indian national company is good. They got a job. But we got to ensure that our people are employed. There are people in the Amstel can benefit from employment under that project. But who's looking? Who is looking at that? You know, the young people are saying to us that there is need for the government to create opportunities to take care of them, to improve the social, emotional, and cultural skills of these young people. You know, I saw a comment Imran Sakur said that there is need for a cultural center in Region 6. I agree with you. I agree with you. Charles Ramsden got money for cultural centers across this country. 2 years after, we still, trying to follow the money. We're still trying to follow the money, but there's nothing happening in the Public Accounts Committee to review anymore. So we can't follow the money, at least in the National Assembly. And that brings me to another point. Folks, I am ready. I am ready for the road. I have been discriminated. I am a suspended member of parliament.
Honorable, it's
Folks,
suspended.
yes, I've been introduced many times. Honorable suspended member. And I see my brother Ganesh Maipal is on the live. He's also suspended. Sherrod is also suspended. Annette suspended. Vince Roy suspended. The chief whip, Christopher Jones, suspended. You know? I think it's 8 of us. Maureen
Philadelphia
Philadelphia
suspended.
suspended, 8 of us not going back to the National Assembly. And yesterday we were, out in our communities, and the lady says to me, "But Miss Lewis, what did you do? Miss Lewis, I don't understand. I watched that video and I don't know what you did, Miss Lewis." But folks, I'm going to play a video for you. And after this video, Kiwi and I will have a short conversation because I noticed we're running up on program time. I really don't know. I'm building bridges where the time does just go. The conversations be so nice, right?
The big bridge you're
And
building, you know.
and you know, Kiwi said we're building a big bridge. He has been an excellent guest this evening, and the conversation is flowing so smoothly. But he said to you that he's been involved in politics for a number of years, and I'm going to throw him in the deep end here now. But before, I want you to take a look at this video. Mr. Speaker, thank you. I am grateful for the opportunity to present my contribution to Budget 2022 in this House. But before I present my contribution, allow me a few minutes to address the previous speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member who spoke before me, the Photoshop lady, Madam Minister Sonia Parag, when you spoke about corruption, you omitted to tell the nation in your address about corruption prior to 2015. But let me remind the nation, because that's what we're here for. People's memory are not so short as yours. The APNU AFC, when we got into government in May of 2015, we conducted over 53 forensic audits. Y'all remember that? Over 53 forensic audits on corruption. It was evident. So much so, sir, that a lot of things came out of those audits. But let me say to you that the audits were not done by APNU AFC members. The audits were done by qualified professional accountants, including Christopher Ram and Anand Gulsaran, among others. Sir, massive corruption was identified from the audits. These audits were sent to the police for further investigation. We shall not forget, sir, that the DPP recommended charges for the PPP ministers. Can you remember that the former housing minister was charged with 19 fraud charges? And the former finance minister who fled this country when he was charged. He fled this country and went to Dubai. Sir, when these people stand to talk about transparency and corruption, they should remind themselves. They should remind themselves of what they did.
I stand on order 40B, an elucidation. That is actually an inaccuracy that the honorable member said, and I think it's important that we have a clarification or a withdrawal from her.
Honorable.
Folks, it is interesting that you should pay attention to those things. And why did I bring it up at this point in time? I started off by telling you that I'm suspended, and a lot of people don't know why I'm suspended. And I'm not going to say more on that, but I want for us to pay attention to what is happening. When we talk about corruption, there are consequences to our action. It is as if we are being muzzled as parliamentarians in the National Assembly. We are being muzzled, we are being punished, we are being put out of the National Assembly. But, we don't just go there because we wake up and we feel, or the coalition decide, well, we can take Natasha. People voted for us. People voted for us. And so when we go to the National Assembly, we go there to represent the people, and we have to highlight issues that are of concerns. And at the top of our agenda is the corrupt PPP and their practices. And Priya stood there, the Minister of Education, to ask the speaker for clarifications. Give me what kind of clarifications Priya want when the housing minister prior 2015 was charged. There was a investigation done. He was charged, placed before the court. What kind of clarification she needs?
But I think we need clarification as well.
Absolutely.
Because, what you were doing there is what you're supposed to do as a parliamentarian. Why have a parliament? This is not an imperial state. This is a republican state. This is a country that has elections, that has seats in parliament, that has a national assembly, that has three separate government powers: the judiciary, the legislation, and the executive. There's a system, is a way that things work. And our parliamentarians, right, have to go in there and make sure they scrutinize what has been done, scrutinize and be advocates against corruption. And if we see corruption, if we have statistics of corruption, we have to call it out. And you can't tell me that if I'm going to call out corruption, you're going to try to muzzle me, right? That's the government we're dealing right about now. That's why a lot of people are even afraid to speak up, because they're afraid of their jobs. Right? They're afraid of being victimized. They're afraid of being, marginalized. So we see only a few persons speak out. And trust me, a lot of people understand. And I'm not going to worry with the persons, who have all these fake pages are going and commenting and say, oh, Ghana's all great and we're talking nonsense. I know the majority of the people in this country, pockets are burning. Some people belly burning. Some people hungry. You spoke about the lady who spoke about why we always have to talk about the negative. This is not the negative. This is the reality. If you want to call the reality negative, then it's a negative outcome. We're here to speak on the reality. Politics is real in this country. Victimization is real in this country. We have 8 parliamentarians who would have stood up in parliament for the people of this country. They did not want to see this present installed regime take or bully this country, utilize the funds to do whatever they want to do with it. They stand up. They stand up against that. And because they stood up against that, they were muzzled. They were suspended. All 8 honorable suspended members. So this is the kind of politics that we are against. And trust me, we're going to get it right. We have to get it right, because corruption is real. I don't know about anybody else, but I know how corruption looks. And from that Sue video alone, the Vice News, that Vice News clip, don't tell me to give you more evidence. It is clear that corruption is there, right? If you want to do business in this country, you got no Sue.
Yeah.
Right? If you think you're doing business yet unless you know Sue, right? To go and get an interview at Jagdio's house, you could get, high rolling movements. And then again, this is the first time, as our leader would say, the first time you heard Jagdio stammer, because he didn't expect that the young lady knows Sue name so good and know of his relationship. That is corruption. Being Guyanese, we know what is corruption, but a lot of us try to stay quiet because, you know what? We were afraid. We were afraid of the PPP, and we could understand why. They would have continuously utilized their power. We saw what happened to Quinton Bacchus. We saw what happened to Boston from SEQ. We saw what happened to many young people, many persons who would try to speak out, who would try to go against this present regime, how they would utilize their power to muzzle them, the list goes on. So I stand with my parliamentarians. As a youth leader, I stand with my party, and I stand with people of this country. People must be able to exercise their right in this country, not only on voting day, but their right to speech, their right to assemble, their right to protest, their right to association. These are things in the Constitution gives people the right to do. So we're not talking the negative, we're talking the fact, we're talking the reality. I'll give you one positive before I allow the host to take back this discussion. I'm sure somewhere in the world, a beautiful baby is born.
Yes.
And that is something very positive. Negatively, the mother is not too sure how she's going to continue to feed that child because things tight.
Yes.
The cost of living is high. Maybe she's a single parent. Maybe she works at a security firm. Maybe she has 4 other children. She lives in an impoverished area. So besides the positive that the birth of that child, there's a lot of negatives that comes behind if a government is going to does not take the country serious, does not take its people serious, and continues to push their hands in corruption.
Kibi, it was awesome having you here this
It was
evening.
my pleasure.
I don't know where did the time go, but our conversation
Exactly.
flowed so smoothly. And folks, I know that we have to talk a lot more about youth development, what's happening in this country. I particularly would have liked some more time to tell you about the development of the National Youth Corps that under the David Granger administration we developed. The National Youth Corps is something that we know for sure that the young people from across this country would have been able to enroll in the National Youth Corps, learn a skill, go back to their community and be productive citizens. That's one of the things that was central for the development of our youth in this country. And I can tell you that I've had the privilege of going up to the center on the highway,
Mm.
and I can tell you that most of those young people, when you speak with them, some of them did not have the many subjects CXC. Some of them didn't complete secondary education, but they're within the age range. They want to move on. It was an opportunity to save them from going on the destructive path. And we want to know what is happening to those programs. And we specifically spoke about the Kukru Training Center, the Sophia Training Center, and the Vyman Irving Training Center. They all fall under the Department of Youth program. Folks, if you have more information than we are letting our viewers know, feel free to contact me, 615-8917. Just Google Kibwe Copeland. You will find his contact there. He's on Facebook, he's on Instagram, and so on. You will get him. Same for me, Natasha Singh Lewis. Just Google. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. You can find me anyway. Just send us a comment here. Tell us what you know is happening to our young people. We know that the unemployment rate is very high. Kibi would have said to us that we're happy to have the temporary jobs, while we know that the current installed government would have advocated in their manifesto that they're going to create 50,000 jobs. But we now see that they're offering temporary jobs, and he would have promoted on building bridges that we should have permanent jobs for our young people. I think those were excellent recommendations that he would have made. And folks, it was nice having you here, but I want to give, before we wrap up, I want to ask Mr. Kibi Copeland to give us some final remarks as we close off Building Bridges for the 15th of August, 2022.
Thank you very much. And my closing words is off, but not political. It basically speaks to young people. And I believe that one of the things I started off when I was introducing myself, that the key to success is the realization of oneself. And I believe young people have to really examine themselves personally. You have to have a plan for yourself. You have to understand who you are in today's society and what do you have to give to today's society. Do not limit yourself. Not because of your skill of the color of your skin, your religion, your beliefs, or even to whatever political party you might want to support. You have a purpose in today's society, and unless we as young people take a stand for our own right, not to say that the older folks don't have a place, we have to bring that union between the seniors and the young people. It is needed wisdom and that new energy and enthusiasm and creativity. But young people have to take their place in today's society, not just as followers, not just as listeners, but young people who are prepared to take on leadership. Young people are prepared to speak out for the right, and young people who are prepared to take up the helms of leadership and to speak against the inequalities and the disparities of today's society. So we as young people, let's be youthful, but let's not be dumb.
Thank you very much for being on Building Bridges
My
this
pleasure.
evening. Folks, I want to thank you also for being here on Building Bridges. It's always a marvelous Monday to spend 1 hour on Monday evening from 6:30 to 7:30, where we discuss issues of national interest. Feel free to contact us. You know, we've seen a lot of things happening in our communities, and we are here to represent the people of Guyana. Reach out to us. And I was saying this afternoon, if you know that you want to get contact with one of the members of parliament, it's very simple. don't go around, just Google the name of the person, and all of the you will have videos, you will have contact information, everything for that person comes up. It's as simple as that.
Mhm.
I, if you want Mr. Copeland's number, just message him.
Correct.
Tell him what's happening. Any part of Ghana, it doesn't have to be in Region 4 or on the coastline. We learned that he has roots in Hope Town in Region 5. We learned that he has roots in Linden, and he did a fantastic job in Denham still a few days ago. You have young people in the opposition that can represent you. So just reach out to us and we will be there with you. It's one of our functions, and we want to help. We want to help. We understand that things are tight and people are going through difficult circumstances. Folks, this all the time we have with you on Building Bridges this evening. Thank you very much for being with us. I want to say a pleasant good evening to Miss Joyce, Barbara Joyce. I always say Miss Joyce. I don't know why, but it's Miss Barbara Joyce from Mocha Arcadia. And I want to say there's a lady from Alexander Village who's watching us, Sharon Griffith. Good evening to you, and thank you all for joining. Elaine Smith says I fed up with things in Guyana now. Ellen, I fed up a long time. 2 years ago, I fed up too. And I want to say thank you to all of you for joining me. Mabel Schultz, um, she says that the government should strongly focus on full-time employment. We totally agree with you. Lynette Fraser, you've been with us for a long time. And Alana Tang, have a great evening to all of you. Folks, I am happy that you took time to be with us this evening. I'll let you into a little secret. I am not sure that I'm going to be on air next Monday because you know what? Next Monday is my birthday. And I have not had much time to just sit and relax and reflect. One of the things we learned over the weekend was reiterated to all of us is that there's a time that you need to reflect and you need to replenish and you need to go forward and you need to go forward harder. And you know me, I don't really back down, right? There aren't much things that can really pull me down. And so I recognize that I need to go forward and I need to go forward harder because our people are suffering. And when you suffer, it bothers me. But on Monday, I'm going to take a little bit of time off. And so you will miss me next Monday on Building Bridges. But the following Monday, I will be back. And as I come back the following Monday, we will be preparing for Education Month. I am now shadowing the Ministry of Education. And so I have a packed agenda for September. We will be talking a lot about education. So that's a heads up for you. Forgive me for next Monday, but I'll see you again. Thank you and have a good evening, folks.